Looky what I found. Oh man, look at that. Well, you never know what's going to turn up on these deep basement dives. My original Game Boy from when I was like 10 or 11 years old. Whoa. This brings back a ton of memories. Yep, I think it's going to be a retro kind of night. Oh wow, listen to that. Oh hell, you kidding me? Dead pixel lines. Oh, man. I was getting fired up to play too. God damn it. Well, at least this gives me a reason to try the soldering iron fix I've read about over the years. So let's jump right in. After the batteries come out, we're going to remove the 6 screws from the back housing using a tri-wing screwdriver. And we'll carefully open up the console and disconnect the data cable. And the main board has 10 screws that can be removed with a mini Phillips screwdriver. I'll have the link in the description for both screwdrivers needed for the repair. With all 10 screws out, I can now carefully lift the board from the housing and turn it over to access the screen. An X-Acto knife, razor, or spudger makes it easy to loosen the black rubber strip and peel it off. We'll also remove the old adhesive under the strip. At this point, I'm going to put the batteries back in the system and reconnect the data cable to the board in the back housing. After powering the system back on, we can now see the screen is in much worse shape now that the pressure's been taken off that old video connector. With our soldering iron preheated to 300 degrees Celsius, I'm going to begin applying light pressure to the ribbon cable at short intervals of just a couple of seconds each, with the idea being heating up the old solder under the connector and causing a reflow to restore the video signal to the screen. And from what I've read, most of these old Game Boys generally respond well to this method. After a few passes, you should start to see the screen slowly restore. However, in my case, light pressure isn't really helping matters much at all here, and it seems to be making the problem worse. I stuck with this method for a while, actually much longer than what this edited video is showing, trying different movements and passing over wider areas of the cable with no improvement. It actually got to the point where I honestly started to think that maybe my unit is one of the ones that some people claim is too far gone to be fixed, which was a bitter pill to digest, especially in knowing how well I took care of my Game Boy when it was actively used, and how it had been resting undisturbed in a climate-controlled environment ever since. Considering the possibility that I may have a lost cause on my hands, I started applying more pressure and leaving the iron in place on the ribbon at longer intervals, and lo and behold, I finally started making some headway. There seemed to be a fine line between doing more and doing too much as I began to notice small pieces of the ribbon cable starting to melt onto the iron. Still, I persisted, not only applying more pressure to the connectors, but I also noticed a big difference when I used the side of the iron to apply heat to a larger area at once, again, risking possible damage to the components. But patience and persistence finally started to pay off, and I slowly began to see the video returning and the screen shaping up to more like I remember it. Though I will say, there were times I was wondering if I was really going to be able to save that right side, which had remained a point of contention all the way to the end. It ended up taking multiple passes with sustained pressure and heat to really start showing signs of progress, and once again, I found myself trolling the line where I wondered if I was maybe doing too much, but I continued to get results, so I kept at it. It even got to the point where I was practically massaging the entire right half of the ribbon with the side of the iron, directly underneath the target area where the cable connects to the screen. And this seemed to be the difference maker, as working with that area for a period of time made the actual connector more responsive to the treatment than it had been up to that point. A few minutes later, I was able to put the finishing touches on this thing and finally restored the screen to full working order. I think that ribbon cable's been permanently nuked to the screen connector, which I suppose is not a bad thing. I let the system sit for 10 or 15 minutes to give everything plenty of time to cool down to make sure no lines reappeared on the screen. Once it seemed like it was good to go, I applied some two-sided tape to one side of the rubber strip and cut away the excess around the edges. Next, I placed the opposite side of the strip on a piece of electrical tape and cut away the excess there as well, with the idea here being, once the strip is placed back over the screen connector, there will be a little extra thickness to it to keep the pressure on the video cable and hopefully avoid this problem recurring down the road. Everything looks good, so I'm going to cut the Game Boy back off, disconnect the data cable, and carefully seat the video board back into the front housing. Now would be a good time to give the screen a quick look to make sure there's no dust particles between the screen and the front cover. All clear? Now we can put the 10 screws back into the board and lock it down in place. Restore the data cable one last time and make sure it's properly seated. Press the system back together and note that it's normal to feel a little resistance if you put that extra padding on the black rubber strip. Pop the batteries out of the compartment and restore the 6 screws to the back housing. Batteries back in, and now the ultimate test. Don't forget to check that contrast dial. And we have success. A fully restored working Game Boy in all her dot matrix glory. Look at that beautiful cream spinach color.
Look out!
Hey.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hear that? Got this damn thing fixed.
Oh, no shit? You fixed it?
Hell yeah. It took a little while, but it's all good now. And got my game link cable. Found that too. Bring your Game Boy over, bud. Let's kick it old school.
Yeah. I mean, I would, man, but, can't we just put, like, some 2K or something?
Well, I was just kind of wanting to go retro tonight.
Well, what about All-Stars? That was fun, right? I mean, plus it ain't, like, 10 years old now. It's gotta be considered retro now, right? That's right. You can't get the extra DLC wrestlers anymore, though, can you? Man, I gotta have DiBiase.